When I started as a public defender in the Minnesota court system was in the late 90s, I very quickly realized how many veterans we had coming through the court system. Most of them Vietnam veterans at that time. Many of them were still living their Vietnam experience as if it had happened a day or a month before. We weren't dealing with military-related service or trauma in the courts at all in those days. And then 9/11 happened. Who could have known at that point that we would see a stream of veterans of this new generation coming into the courts that was going to continue on for years and years and years? The military's own studies confirm that the rates of combat trauma rise significantly with each additional combat deployment. This is an exposure injury, and the more you're exposed to combat, the more likely you are to suffer.
Since 1980, we've known about PTSD, we've known about the effects of war, and we've continued to send people to war. That decision comes with the weight that we have to help the people that come back. Until we make it a priority to help them on their way out, we've got to deal with this stuff on the backside. There's long been this belief that the best way to protect public safety is to beat up on the criminals. Therapeutic jurisprudence has just taken a really long time to develop.
They don't tell you when you join the military that you're going to walk down the streets of Baghdad and you're going to see kids that have been crucified to telephone poles and shot with RPGs.
They brought a 4-year-old little girl to me. She had one arm and half a face. The things like that are the things that can't be unseen.
There was an Iraqi who drove a car with a 3-year-old kid that he claimed was sick so he could get past the barricade, and blew him and his child up.
Terrorists would send us videos of like the police, and they would, kill them. That's one of the things that really got to most of us.
The people who actually do the trigger pulling and get recycled through that several times, there should be an understanding of what that can create.
You don't just leave that trauma in those environments when you leave, like turning off a switch, and then you can go back home and forget the psychological pressures and trauma that you'd experienced.
And the only way they can assuage themselves is by drinking or getting high. And when they do that, they end up getting in trouble.
I was definitely skirting the line of being a soldier and like a gangster almost.
I got into using drugs so that I didn't have to sleep because I didn't want to have to deal with nightmares.
I chose to start using to get rid of all the pain and all the memories that I had from war.
I was introduced to methamphetamines. I found a steady supply of it. And overnight, I'm not really sure how, I became a drug dealer. And I would say in the span of 2 years, I destroyed my entire life.
I started drinking to cope with my circumstance, and that led to illicit drugs, led to marijuana, which led to crack cocaine. Some fuses, once they're lit, aren't easily extinguished.
Many veterans struggling with untreated combat trauma are very resistant to acknowledging that they have a problem.
I didn't think about the law. I didn't think about the consequences, but they surely started to come.
And I'm watching these guys going to jail and going, nobody's ever treated what got them here, and they wonder why their family's falling apart and they're falling apart. I don't wonder.
Once their trauma leads to an act that brings them in the criminal justice system, we can treat them like anybody else in the justice system and punish their behavior and put them back out on the streets. But we know from the Vietnam veteran experience that that just doesn't tend to work. If a veteran's coming into that treatment as part of a court-ordered program, they now have incentive to see that through.
The veteran who's been admitted to the court is not handed a bag full of lollipops and told to come back in 18 months for your graduation. It's a long, hard road.
You don't feel like you need to make excuses or justifications. And every single one of the people that are in that courtroom are there to help you.
Now, these are the people, in my mind, that are supposed to be throwing the book at me, wanting to throw me in jail, wanting me to fail. That's not how it was.
When they stepped up and started talking about trying to actually help, that was new for me.
I owe my entire life to them. They saw potential in me that I didn't see in myself, and they gave me the chance, and they exhausted all of their resources on me to help me help myself.
Many veterans courts offer the veteran an opportunity to avoid the criminal conviction, but not all. So for a veteran who is struggling to begin with to reintegrate back into their community, who now has a criminal offense and is being asked to get the help that they need, and they follow through and get it, but they walk away from the court with this conviction that makes them a second-class citizen for the rest of their life, we found over and over again, it's not long before many of them pop up in the system again.
It's a question of massive education to make people understand that we're not trying to give people a free pass, we're trying to give them a helping hand to fix whatever's wrong so that they can lead productive lives.
This is all based on morality. We owe them a chance to get back in the saddle.
It's taken decades of really hard work pushing this message that these guys are redeemable.
At a point in our country's history right now where we need every asset that we can get. And these young people have a level of life experience that really doesn't exist anywhere else in our society.
Most American businesses that hire veterans are astonished at the work ethic, the loyalty, the sense of responsibility, the maturity. That to me is reason enough for them to say, I need to support these programs.
We wish that we could bottle it somehow and spread it around the country. We would be a heck of a lot better country because of it. You know, we would save a lot of lives.
These other states, if they want to consider their veterans courts, then they need to definitely look at the outcomes for veterans in Minnesota and ask themselves, do you want to help veterans or do you not want to help veterans? Because sometimes it's that simple.
The Veterans Defense Project, since its inception, has been a labor of love, something that arose out of Ryan Else and I's private practice representing veterans in criminal court, and our sense of urgency that we couldn't just keep fighting for veterans, one veteran at a time. For a long time, it has been something that we've done on nights and weekends, but now we've reached a level of success with the passage of this legislation in Minnesota and interest that is growing across the country that we can't do it on a shoestring anymore. We need you and we need your help to take this mission to the next level and to make sure that we bring all of our veterans the rest of the way home.